Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 475. This is your guide to the geek side. And I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra. For episode 75, it's the anniversary that your grandparents probably aren't going to make, unfortunately, unless they were married at the age of 10.
My grandparents made it to 50, and then I think my grandfather lived another 10 years. But you know what? Yeah, boy, that's morbid. Ouch. But you're not wrong. That's just the thing.
George Burns might have made 75 with his wife, but he lived to be 100. And did he even make 100 though? Was that the joke? Like he was supposed to make 100 and then he failed.
Why is it a joke if he's dead? I mean, Betty White was like 3 weeks shy. We still got Jimmy Carter. He's 99, but I don't even know how he's still alive. He's really, every time we see him, he's like, oh, they rolled Jimmy Carter out for this thing. And he just looks like he's oh my, he's just a glob. But he's still alive, technically. Medically.
Oh, George Burns just made it over 100 by like 2 months, Charlie. Because if George Burns didn't make 100, it's like, right. Dude, you just wasted your old life because that was like your claim to fame. I'm old.
Oh God, you devil!
Yes, absolutely.
My goodness.
So the voice of the other person on the line, if you don't know, is Charlie Carden. You can see him, but you may have to guessed.
You know, I am known in places far and wide. I have more enemies than friends, but the friends I have are good ones.
Charlie, just a question: how many of our Patreons are on your list?
Boy, it's getting. I'm gonna say.
Let's move on.
maybe one and a half.
Maybe
one and a half. We'll see. But anyway, yes. No, I'm just kidding. I do love all of our Patreons by hook or by crook. These are the wonderful people who make it possible for us to make fun extra content, which you can find over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. You get ad-free versions of our show and all the wonderful content that we have been creating over the last year, almost a year and a half, that we've been doing that. Todd and I have a great show about comic books called Spinner Rack. I do a fun show. Todd's going to be joining me in the near future called The Facts of Geek Life, where we take a classic program, a season of that show, and we break down a handful of episodes. We have a good time doing it. So we would love to have you on board. You can, again, visit that website and try us for 7 days for free at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. At our Friends with Benefits level, John Sedorf, the delightful Phoenix Sisters cosplay. Love those ladies. Brendan Myers, Corey in HD, and friend of the show, Matthew Kill. Well, really, everybody's a friend of the show, but we've known Matthew for a long time. BFF level is our top tier folks, the awesome Nias family out there in the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry, as well as Missy Merchant back here in Michigan. Thank you, one and all. We're very grateful for your patronage, literally. But again, if you're listening to this program on the free feed and you'd like to see what the fuss is all about, patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. And as Arnie said early on in the movie Predator, when he chucked a knife into that revolutionary, stick around if you like it, which of course you will, because that is academic.
Arnie also said in Commando, I lied. So there you go. Don't listen to Arnie. He's full of crap. But I am not.
Listen to Chris Reeve in Superman, where he says, Lois, I never lie. And yes, we never lie about how great our Patreon is. However, Todd might lie to you right now about this comic book cover from June of 1968. What do we got going on here?
I would not lie about this cover because it is too good. It's too good for us, Charlie. And that is DC Showcase, issue number 75. And this was a very much like a lot of other comics where they had rotating things. They introduced the characters of Hawk and Dove. And it says, in this world...
I thought one of them was a woman. Oh, well, maybe that came later.
They're brothers. So that was the change, what happened. But the original Hawk and Dove, they were brothers. And it says, in this world, those who seek justice often walk different paths. The tough and the tame, the challenger and the challenged. This is our tale, a tale of two brothers, the Hawk and the Dove. And we've got basically a schism between them, Charlie. They're looking over there. One is strong, one is demure.
Todd, they aren't brothers. I think that's a ruse. This is Ace and Gary, because look at the coloring.
Oh yeah, it is an interesting thing, and it's funny because the synopsis is: a mysterious disembodied entity known only as the Voice bestows great physical power upon two teenage brothers. Oh, I like this, Charlie. You'll love this because it's your favorite thing. Hank is aggressive militant.
He's a militant fanboy. I think the Star Wars prequels sucked. Yeah,
yes,
aggressive fanboy. Yeah.
So there you go. So this is kind of the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the black. It's the the up and the down, ebony and ivory, all of those things.
Ebony and ivory.
Yeah, the costumes are similar to what we saw in the Titans. Quite honestly, having Dove be a male. It just doesn't. It's not a costume I would ever want to be in.
Well, look at him. He looks very like
he's demure. Yeah, he's a pacifist. I don't know how that helps fighting crime, but yeah.
Well, Todd, if we get it all lucky, because in the Thunderdome of this episode, we're going to be talking about a segment we've not revisited for a long time. You use the old roll of the dice, and we picked 5 of our featured covers. As random chance of comics that we're going to touch upon briefly. So potentially if we get lucky or unlucky, this will end up being one of them in some time. But speaking of lack of luck and love, whatever it is, we are overdue. Down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, where Madam Webb, our senior news correspondent at 100 and almost 24 and a half years young, has been reporting news since as long as there's being news, has all the latest scoops for us. Let's go.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Oh, my goodness. It's the NBA Finals. It's the NHL Finals timing. Madam Webb, they are always looking for mascots. So if it's the Timberwolves, you can be the Timberlass. You can show up. You can be chased by a wolf. It'll be entertaining, and you can make some money on the side. So get the only
thing that I really want to see, Madam Webb versus Gritty. Make it happen. I know. Are the Flyers still in? No, it's just the Flyers.
Gritty and Granny.
Gritty and Granny. Yes, Gritty.
There you go.
Oh, there haven't been any great Gritty jokes in SNL lately. That was all the rage with Colin Jost.
Don't worry. Yeah. Yeah, Madam Webb's side gig has always been like being the costume mascots over time, especially ones that were like really horribly ill-conceived and had to be canceled. So yeah,
like Gritty.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, we start the news this week with the story about something I maybe knew was happening, but I didn't remember when or when it was going to happen, and that is Dune Prophecy. We get a trailer for this show, and it's 10,000 years before Paul Atreides, and this is going to be a mini series this fall on Max, and it's really about the forming of the Bene Gesserit. Basically, this group, yes, that's exactly how I pronounce it. This group of basically these women who have special abilities and essentially become almost like the Grand Vizier or the voice in the ear of the king. Or of the emperors of this universe. And
does the emperor have one of those big long cornucopia things? Is it, what's that, Sonny?
Exactly. and this kind of reminds me of like Game of Thrones, how they're building up more of this lore. And what they could do with KOTOR, or what they're trying to do with the Acolyte, which really that's just on in a couple of weeks here. So that's only 100 years. So it's like, hopefully,
10,000 years. Yeah. I mean, if, and again, Alex, who does the Star Wars Explained, does his on the May the 4th every year. He does his complete Star Wars chronology. So it obviously gets longer every year. But yeah, going back 10,000 years, or look it up, that was the Knights of the Old Republic and stuff. So, the history of the Star Wars universe, as far as what was happening, goes back at least 25,000 years, maybe further. So I know that's something that we've expressed hope in, that being something that they do as well. So this is great. And again, Dune is not coming from a place where it has a Star Wars size fan base, but it's growing. Those movies have been successful. Obviously, there was the movie back in the 80s. Todd, I got to tell you that after we saw Dune 2, I did go back and watch that movie again, and I was like, oh.
What, original David Lynch film?
Yes, I was like, oh.
Boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was, boy,
Not a good call.
you know what absolutely blew my mind is that the little girl in that solves everything then is Alicia Witt, the actress who you've seen. Yeah, that's her. That's her.
Interesting.
Yes, I know. I was like, who's that little girl? She looks familiar. But yeah, Alicia Witt from it's the most famous thing she did.
Wasn't she in one of those ABC sitcoms?
Yeah, was it No, it wasn't Reba. No, I'm thinking of the movie she did. It was the Urban Legends. I remember Urban Legend.
Yeah. She was the saucy redhead who had to escape.
The saucy red, and then as an unsaucy redhead, she was a villainess in The Walking Dead in recent years, where she really leaned into it's the apocalypse, and I don't have my makeup anymore. It was just not a great look. But anyway, I really liked her. But yeah, we're a little bit offbeat. But this looks pretty cool. But yeah, it's definitely a hot D. The House of the Dragon kind of vibe. But it's the first foray because again, Dune was that movie. I listened to a great podcast that the Do Go On guys did not that long ago about Dune, the unfilmable book, and how it took because it's just really so very complex. And I think you and I are both in agreement that Denis Villeneuve has gone light years ahead, making this into what's now going to be a trilogy. So this is fascinating. So again, it's your standard streamer thing that'll be anywhere between 6 and 10 episodes, I would imagine. Yep. And this fall. So this is your fall viewing after, I would imagine this will bump up against the end of House of Dragons. I feel like it'll be a regular Sunday night viewing kind of deal. So that's awesome. Yeah. Trailer looks exciting and it's good stuff.
Yeah. And it's really, it's a cool part is it's actually two Harkonnen sisters are the ones who are essentially responsible for creating the Bene Gesserit.
You got that now?
The Bene Gesserit, yes.
Benny and the Jets, got it.
Yes.
Benny and the Jesuits.
Yeah, Jesuits. Benny and the Jesuits. So that's cool. It's based on a novel called Sisterhood of Dune, written by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, which is very common when an author has passed away and they bring in people familiar or passionate with it and they make books. So this is kind of cool. It's based on that, but the cast is amazing. Emily Watson, Olivia Williams, Mark Strong, as you see him there. I love
Mark Strong. That was the one I picked out. All the other ones, it was like, oh yeah, it's that gal. I kind of ran into. I wasn't quite sure who it was. But yeah, this looks fascinating. And again, Mark Strong, what has he ever done that wasn't great? He's pretty fantastic. So
absolutely,
I dig it. So this should be fun. So yeah, obviously it's growing a brand. They've caught lightning and they're running with it. Oh man! I even drank my coffee to psych me up. It's too hot for coffee. So yeah, that should be fun. So that is the fall on Max. So we have a new trailer. It was a short trailer. They're going with shorter trailers, but do we have I guess I'm not 100% sure if this is coming out this year, but Megalopolis. And when I hear that, all I think of is Janet Jackson and how she worked with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. And then the one song she went, Minneapolis. So there you go. Todd, it's you.
Yes.
This is your movie.
Megalopolis is Francis Ford Coppola's the movie he's wanted to make for decades. And essentially no one would finance it. So he said, hell, I'll do it myself. So he's financed this film himself, $100 million to make this film. And it's got a great cast. I mean, if you saw this cast, it's amazing. Adam Driver, Giancarlo Esposito, Natalie Emmanuel, and Aubrey Plaza.
Nathalie Emmanuel, yes,
sure, and and there is a trailer out for it. See, it's actually open in Cannes. Cannes is going on right now, so a lot of movies are being shown. Every movie's got a 9-hour standing ovation after, which is just funny. I mean, they probably hire stand-ins to do that.
Yeah. They did that for Indiana Jones. That really played off in my movie bracket last summer. Thanks a lot, guys.
Never believe a standing ovation. So let me tell you
BS
about this film. It says Megalopolis is a Roman epic fable set in imagined modern America. The city of New Rome must change, causing conflict between Caesar Catalina, which is Adam Driver, a genius artist who seeks to leap into a utopian, idealistic future, and his opposition, Mayor Franklin Cicero, Giancarlo Esposito, remains committed to a regressive status quo, perpetuating greed, special interests, and partisan warfare. Torn between them is socialite Julius Cicero, played by Nathalie Emmanuel, the mayor's daughter, whose love for Caesar has divided her loyalties, forcing her to discover what she truly believes humanity deserves.
And this is totally based on Shakespeare of some variety? Is this kind of a mixing in like Macbeth with Hamlet with Romeo and Juliet? I mean, what's the source material, or is this original
Well,
IP?
I think he's taking
on?
inspiration from the fact comparing America to essentially the Roman Empire. How the Roman Empire fell because of corruption, all of the things you saw, like where they actually had the gladiator charity races in a modern city. So it's taking that lens of. They talk about it's got Samuel L. Jackson had a great, or not Samuel Jackson, damn it. Larry Fishburne.
Larry Fishburne, yes. He was Larry Fishburne as well.
Gave the overview basically about the civilization ending. And so it's really about the collapse of this great society, but it's of a modern lens, very futuristic, with some really unique imagery of like the Statue of Liberty, like embodiment, if it's real or not, coming and collapsing. Right. So it's gotten reviews out in Cannes and they're really strong, but they said this movie is not going to be for everybody. It's very divisive.
It does seem very niche-y. It's great that they really leaned into in the title card when they come to the end of the trailer, and they really leaned into the cast. So to me, even something that's a little fringe, or you're really feeling it's going to be very niche, leaning into the cast is going to be a way that they're going to catch some eyeballs. Like, oh, I love Adam Driver. I love anything that Giancarlo is in. I was at Motor City yesterday, and Giancarlo was one of the guests, and his line was 100 people deep. So I got to see him from a very far distance. How do you know what it's like to go to a show? There's a guy sitting over there. Yeah. So, but I got to see him.
I was like, I'm going to take a selfie and like, hey, I love you.
I did. That's how I got to see Katie Sackhoff. I waited in her line for a little while, but she had run to the ladies and never came back. Very smart.
Yeah, exactly. This movie has a European distributor, no U.S. distributor as of yet. But I imagine it will get picked up. Okay. Yeah, it'll get picked up. I mean, Francis Ford Coppola. I mean, how many movies does this guy have left? I mean, he's amazing. He is a master of modern film. I mean, there's not many others like him at this point.
And he's from the brain trust of Friends that was him and Lucas and Spielberg and De Palma. That was all those Northern California guys back in the day that were part of that.
And big eyebrows.
Big eyebrows and beards and mustaches. Those are all.
So it's great to see this is happening. I'm glad to see he gets doing something good. I always said I wish Lucas had gone through a journey in film to see what he could have put out, but he likes money.
Money's great. Speaking of money, as we move forward, guess who's trying to get a little piece of money and a little something that we call a franchise? That would be the Friday the 13th planned expansion into the Jason Universe. You bet it. So they're looking for a the people at Horror Inc. So is that?
Be careful how you say that, Charlie.
What did I say? Horrors Inc. Horror Inc.
That's another group. Horror Inc. Yes.
Horror Inc. Yes, that would be okay. Oh, well, we're not touching that one. I was just trying to figure out who is the studio. Is it Lionsgate? Is this a Blumhouse thing? Who's got this that they're pushing?
So that's the hard part about Friday the 13th. There was going to be a prequel TV series, and it was going to have blanking on his name. He was behind Hannibal, Pushing Daisies, and he also was the initial showrunner for the Star Trek Discovery. Can't remember his name.
But Noah Hawley?
No, Brian
Fuller?
Yes, Brian Fuller. So Brian Fuller was going to be on this prequel. It was going to be about Jason's mother. It was going to lead into like kind of reimagining the franchise. He stepped away because of creative differences. And so now this is interesting because we haven't seen Friday the 13th in a film in like 10 years. It's been pretty quiet. So now was it
rebooted? Because Halloween was rebooted and then they came back.
I think we had Jason X was the last film. Remember that one? Jason in Space.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Friday is Victor original Friday 13th.
It's kind of weird all over the place. Yeah. But basically you've got rights all over the place. A24 is going to be doing the expanded
There we go.
prequel Crystal
There we go.
Lake.
And on Peacock. So there we go. So accessibility, which is a good thing too.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to if you're having a prequel series. So, and this would then spin into here we go. Executive producer of Friday the 13th, the game in 2017. So there you go. That was the last project.
Yeah, that was a kind of a cool game because basically it was you had 4 people playing as survivors, and one person was playing Jason trying to kill you. It was crazy. Very
Nice.
freaky. Yeah.
Good
so
deal.
essentially what they're doing is creating this entity that will eventually create new films, games, and so on and so forth. So nothing really except for this prequel series that has been greenlit. Other than that, but I assume when they see all the money that Halloween and all these other franchises like The Exorcist, then also
everybody turns into Where's Mine? Yeah,
exactly. Why not? I mean, Jason never dies, so I mean, why not bring him back in a cool way? Of course, no one can point to like a great Friday the 13th film, maybe the first one, but
yeah, I think we tuned into that back in Shocktober, and Kevin Bacon is the only name of anybody who went on to do anything.
But Jason's not even in that one either, too.
It's his
weird.
At the end of it, and she was somebody famous. It wasn't Janet Leigh. What was it? Janet Leigh, who was Jason's mom? I feel like
I think it was someone else. Maybe, yeah.
But that was the only other real name in the mix. So, well, cool. Well, that is. Are we getting that around Halloween? I'm assuming.
The series, maybe. If they lost their showrunner, I'm going to guess it might be taking a little longer.
The showrunner might run off. Well, speaking of things that clearly have taken a lot longer, the good folks at Disney had their upfronts last week. And I remember upfronts, my one trip to New York City.
It's a throwback.
20 years ago, I tagged along with my mom to my mom was a national sales rep for either an NBC or an ABC station. I can't remember. She went to the upfronts in New York and she said, come with me. You can sleep on the floor of my hotel. And I was like, woo, New York City.
How graceful. How graceful. She didn't even get you a cot, Charlie? How nice.
Oh, you know what? I did have a cot. You're right.
Okay, there you go.
But anyway, got to stay in Midtown while she did that. I kind of wandered around. That was my story about I rode a train to Harlem by accident, and I turned around and walked around the block and got right back on the train.
Like Grandpa Simpson.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's my one trip to New York. Have another one coming up.
They're scary, Grandpa.
Oh my gosh! Old man yells at cloud. But anyway, upfronts for Disney. The much delayed and or rumored Ironheart series, and again, that's Rory Williams as a female-ish type Tony Stark, spinning out of Wakanda Forever. That's not a movie I've revisited. Todd, how did you feel about that movie?
Yeah,
I mean, I've not revisited most.
I have did not resonate. I don't think it resonated with many people, except for like the end scene. I'm like, fine, it just didn't do anything. Most people, I did like Namor, though. That was kind of cool.
Did you call him Nemor? I think it's supposed to be Namor, but they called him Namor.
No, Nemor, like Nemo.
Finding. Oh my god,
Finding Nemor.
I also remember that we went to go see it after set up for Comic-Con, the big event that we work for the club, and we were just exhausted. So it's a good chance I could have slept through some of it and never watched it again. So maybe it would be better if I was awake. But then again, maybe my body knew what it was doing. But anyway, so this is looking like a Disney Plus series. Rory Story, young MIT student, see her stealing various parts around campus and get booted for doing so to build her armor. I don't know where the character ended up at the end of that film.
I think she had a deal. That's the thing. I don't even remember either. I know she obviously showed up, wore armor, did a big thing, and then was she going to be recruited or given a scholarship or something to keep making armor? I could. That's the bad part. It's not as familiar as memorable as the first Black Panther.
It's a newer character. And
that movie was all over the place. It tried to introduce so many things, tried to do so much, and it's like, why introduce her in this movie?
Right. It just didn't land. Yeah, it didn't. The connective tissue didn't really seem to align. But this show is promised to us in 2025, as is Daredevil, the Born Again, also promised for 2025. Similarly, presented in this was the fact that Agatha All Along, which is like the 48th thing they've named the series, will be released in September of this year. So that is our next Disney Plus something. Do we have something before September? I mean, we're already almost into June, so
Good question. I know Agatha is supposed to be coming out in around Halloween.
Well, September 18th, as I literally just said.
Yeah, it'll end up it'll finish off in October, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's what we got. So, Todd, your excitement level for Ironheart, I can't lie. It's not based on what we were just talking about the film. This is just kind of like, obviously we'll watch it. Obviously we'll be talking about it, but it's just I'm not the segment. You know what I mean?
I will be curious because this was already done when this has already been filming and already in production before Disney says we're going to cut back and focus on quality over quantity. So I feel like this will already be something that Disney probably is going to be like, not our best effort. We're just making a ton of stuff. We put the cart before the horse, and it's going to be on a Disney Plus budget, which potentially tells me that we're going to maybe not get her suit in a big battle until the very end where they save the money.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
We're working on suspense. Yeah.
Exactly. Apparently the Hood is going to be involved. Charlie, the Hood is going to be kind of like the big bad of this series.
That's so funny.
It's random.
Because that was a very laughable Marvel Legends character within the last year that they introduced the Hood, and it's just a dude in jeans and like a red hoodie, but a big cloak, and his mouth,
Little Red Riding Hood.
His mouth is open. His mouth, he has the mouth like this, and that's Google it. I'm telling you.
I know who the Hood is. Yeah, the Hood is magic and gives him demonic powers. Yeah.
That's the one that you'll find at Ollie's, trust me. But yeah, I mean, we'll watch it, we'll see it. But yeah, it's just there's Disney's struggling for me, man. Disney and the Marvel stuff is really struggling for me to really give me something like. Loved Guardians 3. That was awesome. But again, best times behind. So, but I mean, they got to forge forward. They got to try different stuff. Outside
it wasn't going to last forever, Charlie. Yeah. It was never going to last. Like everything just keeps going up. It's resetting itself.
You know what? It happened with, Westerns in the 1950s, and they've never really come back. It's never become this entertainment phenomenon that's unstoppable.
But every kid doesn't want to be a cowboy these days when they grow up.
Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
Yeah. It's a thing of the past.
Speaking of, I'm so glad you said thing of the past, because this is actually part of our 4th of July movie block that April and I watch. We have a group of movies that we always put on every 4th of July. Some are great and some are crap. And what category do you think this one falls into? Because it's set over the 4th of July weekend. I know
Oscar
what
contender.
You did last summer. 1998. 96. Because it was Buffy, and it was the girl from Party of Five, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and it was Ryan Flippy and the guy who went on to voice Keenan Jarrus. So it was a bunch of zeitgeisty kind of teens. Mr. Buffy. But yeah, it was these teens who, on the night of their high school graduation, they accidentally run over a hobo, and then they throw him in the ocean. I thought
it was the Gordon Fisherman.
Yes, he comes back and throws fish sticks at them. Blah, blah. Oh, I haven't had a fish stick since I was a kid, and I think we need to keep it that way. Is that something they make at your company? Are fish sticks a product?
We do not make the fish sticks. No.
Thank God. Oh, my
Kanye likes fish sticks.
We don't talk about Kanye on this show. You know how I feel about
Great
Kanye.
Great episode of South Park. Remember that one, Charlie?
Oh, my God. I don't know that that's one that I've seen.
You don't know that one? It's absolutely hilarious. Where they lampoon Kanye because he says something about fish sticks, and it comes out as fish dicks, and it's hilarious.
I'm thinking that in addition to you and I talking about American Dad over on the Facts Geek Life, maybe we need to take on the first season of South Park. Because do you remember what that was like when we saw it for the first time in 1997?
Kids are going to need a Wikipedia to watch that show now because there's so many references that don't even make sense anymore.
Right, exactly. Oh my gosh. Even that first episode. But anyway, all right. Well, back to 1997. Okay. I know what you did last summer. You have 4 friends who ran over the Gordon Fisherman, like Todd said. They dump him in the ocean to try to cover it up. And then a year later, they start getting nasty notes, and they get she drives a K car in that, and she opens the trunk and there's a bunch of crabs in it. There's a lot of weird shit happening in that movie. So anyway, what's happened in this day and age? Reboot. it says Prince Jr. and Love Hewitt expect to return. So this is a legacy sequel.
They're doing Screaming. Yeah, they're screaming it.
They're screaming it. So I love that stupid movie. So I'm in because it'll just be more of the same. But again, it was, we're pushing almost 30 years ago. So they're our age now. They're slightly younger than us.
Yeah, because
slightly enough.
They made 2 sequels called I Still Know What You Did Last Summer and I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer in 2006. And then they which I remember the second one had Brandy in it. Don't know anything about the third film. Correct. Yeah, I don't know anything about the third.
No, I feel like I've seen it.
And then they had a TV series on Prime in 2021, which I never checked. And I'm like, it's kind of like, did he try to do the Scream TV series on MTV?
Yeah.
It's like, oh boy, do they really need a series?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a Blumhouse deal, unless they just sprinkle that name in there to make it sound good. But with it being Blumhouse, will that help the credibility? Not sure. But anyway, I'm in. This is promised for next year. I would certainly hope for, I'm scrolling up and down here, hope for a window closer to spooky time. So certainly, hopefully in October, November. But yeah.
Oh no, it's coming out July 2025, Charlie. So don't worry. It's a summer movie. It's a summer movie.
That'll be in our brackets. This article does wrap things up mentioning that M3 GAN gets a sequel in June of next year, which I'm very excited about. I did see some M3 GANs walking around Motor City yesterday. Some pretty impressive ones. And Black Phone 2. How do they do Black Phone 2? Is the same kid? Should I go into this basement again?
Now it's going to be like an assault. It's going to be now you're going to need a calling card, like what MCI or you need a calling card. It's a freaky calling card with a phone that won't charge.
You bet. But you know what? Blumhouse doesn't really tend to miss. But all right. Well, that takes us out of the news. Tad, good stuff. Look forward to that one. But it is time for me to get up.
Anything we did in this news section, you're much better than we are. We're a little erratic today. We're kind of all over the place.
We're much like Wakanda Forever. We're all over the place. But anyway, in my hand, got the Fuber app open, the Feeble Uber app open. We've got that car pulling up. We get in the back seat. He turns on that Sirius XM satellite. He goes to the 90s at 9. And all of a sudden I hear this advertisement.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite. Let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So Charlie did something different this weekend. I got tickets I got tickets to the Transformers 40th anniversary event, and I went with Sean Nias. We had a good time. I bought tickets. We had some apps at the restaurant across the street. Then went to the theater to watch.
Look at you, boy date. I love it.
Yeah, we do that all the time. We watched 4 of the original television episodes of Transformers from 1984. On the big
movie?
screen. No, not the movie. The movie wasn't even involved because this is just the 40th. What happened in the 40th anniversary? Yeah.
So is that the first arc of the
yes, the first 4 episodes, leaving Cybertron, then showing up on Earth, and trying to get back to Cybertron. That type of thing. So it was kind of neat because it started with a kind of overview of some toys. So it was kind of really a marketing event with some.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's
so
wild.
they did talk about some of the toys and how they're celebrating it with all of these things, which was kind of cool. And then they showed a preview of their new cartoon with I think it's season 2. They showed a preview of that was coming up, and then they kind of gave a really cool premise of doing this. So basically, they got back together as many of the original voice talent from the animated series that were still alive. Yeah. So they brought them in, and they brought in other people to do voice talent as well, which is kind of cool because there's other people. Like they had a guy who did the voice of Jazz, and they brought another guy that do other voices as well. But Michael Bell was there. Frank Welker.
I met Michael Bell.
Yeah. Frank Welker, Peter Cullen, and then some other folks as well that do less voices that you know. But it was really cool because they did the first episode, they did a table read. So basically they had the actor doing the lines and then the split screen of actually the screen. So they were basically doing all of the voice acting, and it was a blast, and it was so much fun. After the first episode, they did some bloopers and talked about kind of like, what it's like to work together again. Very fun. And then it went into just the last 3 episodes, and it was just those. They did that kind of like the interstitials where like, we'll be back. And they did those in between. Right. They did the trailer, the credits at the end of every episode. Yeah. And then at the very end, they basically said memoriam for all the actors who have passed away. So very cool event. There was not a ton of people in the audience, but it was over a couple of days, very theaters in the country. It's there. And I really dug this because I think this could work really well with some other things, not necessarily just cartoons, but I thought, Charlie, they could do a G.I. Joe miniseries this way. I think that would work really well.
Yeah. One of the miniseries, because G.I. Joe, they had 2 miniseries, and then when they had their third one, it was 83, 84, 85. When they had the 85 one is when it launched into a regular series.
Yeah.
And each one of those were 5-parters, so they could shoot with one of those, maybe the most popular one of those, whatever it was. The 84 miniseries was the one that I loved the most because we had moved here to Grand Rapids from Detroit, and my mom worked at a television station that carried that in syndication, and she got a cassette tape for us, but it was a straight dub, so it had the commercial breaks in it, so we had to fast forward until he came back on.
Audio tape or a video tape?
Video tape. Yeah.
You said audio, like a cassette tape. I'm like, cassettes? VHS. Okay.
It was a video cassette. Yes.
Okay.
But it was
a single.
Yeah, that was super. It was yes, it was, and on the back of it was New Editions Candy Girl. Yeah,
well, very cool. Yeah, so I would be cool if they. It would be cool if they did some of this with other things. But I like the fact that they did this. Very, very cool, very fun, very event. I like to see more of these type of things. So it was great. It was a change of pace. Awesome. Really enjoyed it.
I like it.
Yeah, so check it out. I think it's done tomorrow, but. If it's available in your area, go check it out. So then we turn to kind of just the phenomena and all the excitement around X-Men 97 is amazing. It just makes me feel like, wow. It just shows the power of taking something that people love and updating it in a way that is respecting the past, but making it a hell of a lot better than it was and really making it for all ages.
Just like, in my opinion, not necessarily Discovery in the Star Trek, but Strange New Worlds, universally beloved.
Yeah.
But taking things from the past, updating them, which to some people is controversial. It doesn't really apply to this X-Men thing, but telling a story in a way that people say, yes, this is the thing that I love about that. With the X-Men, as I'm sure you'll go on to say, really details working in elements of what made those storylines from the 80s and 90s and probably even a little bit into the early 2000s really, really click. All the real classics. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And quite honestly, a lot of people probably never read those anyways. We know it's,
Right.
you skim the top that, a lot of people that watch the show never read the comics and totally get that. A lot of people, I did, but, I wasn't 12 years old either. And the unique part is obviously the series just picked up where it left off a billion years ago. I don't know of another series that said, we're going to go back right to where it ended and pick up again.
Right.
Normally you can't, unless it's animation. You could do that because of, you don't have to worry about people's faces. You can just use the voice talent. But for live action, I just don't think that's capable,
right?
Because it's just
they might try, but they have to jump it forward, like doing like
standees or something like that.
Like the X-Files revival they tried to do. So
I think what we'll do, Charlie, is we'll do probably maybe if we can maybe bring in somebody and go through like kind of like a major like spoiler filled kind of talking through everything. I don't want to give this away.
I think that Aaron, who's my regular collab, I'd even mentioned him. I said, "Hey, let's get an X-Files thing going, or X-Men thing going, so we really break it down." But and what an ending! Holy cow!
Yeah, so I really thought they nailed the landing at the end. I really enjoyed the series for everything it did. The endings are always hard to do because it's like, is it going to suck? Or they tried to push too much into it. And I think it was the perfect execution. And the fact is where it leaves us, leaving into we are getting another season, which is great. No surprise. They already told us, before this even got it was renewed for 2. I love where we're going because I have some feelings. I know one storyline that is already there. It's a miniseries I read. I'm like, hell yeah. The rest of the things, I'm not so sure. I don't know if they're just going to play it fast and loose. They're going to do some crazy stuff. But I'm digging it.
That's awesome. Good deal. Yeah, I was a fan too. And it was a little tougher to take because it was my only Wednesday show after the Bad Batch ended, which also had a very strong ending. Ted, I know you weren't a fan, but they had a very strong ending to that show. So I was left with this and I was like, wow, they really nailed it. And they stayed faithful. We also got little teases to other Marvel characters throughout this, but a really tight tease that has sprung into a rumor of another potential revival that kind of touches a little close to something you might see behind me, but I can't say. But that would be pretty amazing. Maybe
spectacular.
It could be or it's not G.I. Joe because Marvel doesn't own them yet.
They should wrap that up.
Oh, you think so? Wrap it up. I'll take it. Okay, good deal. That will be back on maybe this time next year, kind of a once a year kind of deal.
I don't know.
Yeah,
they had to get rid of their showrunner, so
yeah, we could have slowed things down, and it could have been the writer's strike as well. So I guess we'll find out. All right. Well, I watched 2 of these 3 things last week, and I just didn't end up talking about them. But I'll just do some quick bits. Todd, did you get into Seinfeld's Unfrosted?
I watched probably the first 15 minutes, and I said, I'll watch more.
Yeah. So you will watch more. What made you stop? Just like, hey, I gotta go. Not like, oh my god.
I was just turning it on. I'm like, oh, I've got something else to do. I'll come back to it.
Yeah. All right. Impressions. I mean, you'll go back to it. So
because I view this as it's just goofy fun. It's doofusy. It's lighter fare. It is. I quite honestly. I think Jerry Seinfeld was always kind of on the edge of, he's kind of cheesy and he doesn't always nail it. He made the B movie, Charlie. Did anybody love the B movie? So I take Jerry Seinfeld for, I loved Seinfeld, but quite honestly, what else has he done that people say, I loved him in that too? So
it's very niche. Yeah. So, I mean, just to go through this, a spectacular cast. It's a completely not based in reality take on Kellogg, which is from right here in West Michigan, Battle Creek.
Have we seen the title of this movie?
Yes, Unfrosted. Yes,
okay.
It is Unfrosted, right?
Correct.
I didn't get that wrong. Very good. Dropped on Netflix a couple of weeks ago, but absolutely spectacular cast with some of it's entirely filmed in Los Angeles. So you've got a lot of the core LA Netflix comedians, which was great. April and I watched this together. She really can't stand dumb comedy. Like, it just drives her up the wall. So she's like, oh my God. But I'm texting with my friend Tamara at the same time. And I'm like, yeah, April really can't stand this. It's just too dumb. And she's like, well, I mean, you got to lean into the fact that it is what it is. And hearing
movie about Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, hearing you say that and then hearing her say that. There were bits of it, like the kids in the dumpster. I thought that was kind of cute. I'm sure that was right in the beginning of the movie, right?
Yeah, I saw that part. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, it was everything that you expected. None of the other Seinfeld people were in it, but I mean, I'm sure they couldn't afford. They probably could have afforded Michael Richards. What do you think? You'd take him.
I'm assuming he would take a pay. Or he would go. What is it?
He would take a gig.
Yeah, he'd take a gig. What's the base salary you get in
SAG?
Yeah. No. What do they call it? What's the base salary? Like, yeah. Never mind. We're moving on.
Yeah, I get it. But anyway, it's a dumb comedy, but the cast enough is a reason to watch it. So 2 docos. One Todd doesn't want to tell me about, probably because his name was part of the hack. It's okay, Todd. We still love you.
That's true. Yeah.
But yes, over the last couple of weeks on Disney Plus, we watched a documentary about Bon Jovi. Like anybody from the 80s, I have a passing familiarity, if not a super fandom, about one of the greatest rock bands of in the last 40 years. And it was just really impressed how they went through what an incredibly hardworking, dedicated artist John Bon Jovi is, and in the last few years, he got COVID. It ruined his voice. He had to get surgery, and and the entire, it was a 3 or 4 part doco. The entire thing was framed around that and him getting back to doing what he loved. But yeah, his connections going back to the Jersey Shore and Springsteen and Southside Johnny and all those guys. I loved that. And he's just a super talented, hardworking guy. There was one line in the documentary that they said, John was the guy who quit school because he didn't want to go to recess because he wanted to keep working. I think that's a super cool thing for somebody to say about you. So I really, really enjoyed that. And again, it's on Disney Plus. Todd, your feelings about Bon Jovi, kind of running the mill?
I am a huge fan. I remember.
The
first girl I ever tried to I did date that song, there was a song by Bon Jovi. It was a love song that's one of the less famous ones, but that was playing on the radio on the bus when we were driving home from academic track, and that was playing
what is academic track? You gotta run while you're reading shit out of the book. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
It was a way to make academics sound cool and like a competition, but it was essentially a competition for academics. Yeah, I did potpourri, Charlie.
Like you ate it?
Yes. What is that name of that song? I didn't know to make you happy. I didn't mean to make you cry.
That's I'll be there for you.
That's the song. Yes, that was the song that as I was holding her hand in the bus, that song was playing, Charlie.
Oh my
8th grade, man.
Goodness.
8th grade.
That's fantastic. I love it. But anyway, well then tune in and watch this doco. You'll enjoy it.
I love a song. Lastly, Runaway was their first big hit, right? And that was like a thing with Runaway. Yeah.
You know what? Here's a little Star Trek trivia for you. The girl in the video had 2 roles in the golden era of Star Trek. She played Harry Kim's girlfriend in a alt reality sequence, and she was a half Klingon, half Romulan who tried to win the heart of Worf in a 2-part episode where he was in a Klingon prison camp. So her name was Jennifer Gotti, but she was the runaway. Dun 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 dun.
Did you know that Millie Bobby Brown is engaged to John Bon Jovi's daughter?
Daughter? Oh,
Jake Bon Jovi is engaged to Millie Bobby Brown.
Oh, you said Jake?
Jake Bon Jovi.
Jake. No, but Jake. You said it was his daughter.
Oh, sorry, son.
Okay, I didn't. I'm like, that's cool, but I didn't know that she was of that persuasion. Very interesting. Yep. Anyway,
he has a son, and they're engaged. Sorry if I said daughter.
Okay.
Yep.
That's absolutely fantastic. Well, Todd doesn't want to talk about the Ashley Madison documentary because we know that he was in that hack back in 2015.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Yeah, 2020 didn't know about it.
I'm just kidding. The only thing that's really notable about this is just how disgusting the people that ran the company are.
Oh, really, Charlie? An adultery social network.
Yes, and And does it make it worse that it all came from Canada? I don't know.
It
was all it was all based out of Toronto, but yeah, it was a social media network that was based on people looking to have affairs. It was all super top secret, and they go through this family out of Texas that this guy's just a piece of crap, but they're super Christian and they have a big YouTube channel and blah blah blah. I think it's Sam and Nia, and there's no feeling bad for anyone because everyone is garbage. So I think that's why we kept
feel bad for the people that were like looking for locals in their area. No.
Or the people who got exposed. And then there was one sad part that a guy who used it that, when it was exposed, he decided to take his own life. That's not cool.
Well, that's horrible. But, don't do that, folks.
Yeah. Exactly. So anyway, that dropped this weekend, and it's Todd, is it any different than watching these true crime serial killer podcasts? Don't judge me, because I watch one of those. Those are so popular, though. It's crazy.
You just know where this is going. It's like this isn't going to end well.
You do when you watch Dahmer too, but a lot of us still watched it. You know what I mean?
Well, because some people like what I mean. Unless you're watching, because I want to find out where they messed up so I can do it better.
Right. Exactly. Was it because he had 3 drums with human remains in it, and not 5, and should have kept him in the basement instead of his kitchen? So anyway, that is over. That is over on Netflix. So anyway, that is the end of the Geek Easy. Todd, as always, we're skipping out on the check. This place is disgusting. They don't deserve our money. But I'm getting out that Air Qantas app. Time to get us to the land down under, because Hologram Tina and the mutants await. We've got a long gestating game that we're getting back to that's called We Got This Covered, the Mega Edition. Let's do it.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week we are doing We Got This Covered. And this is essentially, we're actually reading covers from our past We Got This Covered segment.
Well,
and
we had to read the comics, not just the covers, because it's funny.
Yes, because we have read the covers already.
Yeah.
So these were selected by the RNGesus, or the random number generator, basically to pick these out and making sure they were available on a service we had. So I had to do it a couple of times, making sure they were across the board. So the comics we picked are Action Comics 317, going back to the gold days of 1958. We had Avengers 394 going back to the early 90s. We had Thor 371 going back from late 80s. The House of Mystery going back to the late 60s. And Guardians of the Galaxy 54 going back to the early 90s as well.
Right. So, just a couple minutes on each one, I'm sure, because you really can't dig that deep. The Superman comic. So again, the Superman comics, this was pre-Crisis. It doesn't really exist anymore. But at this point, Superman was still like the ongoing gag was he always had, I can't have Lois figure out who I am. So because they painted the picture, and they kind of did a weird walk-in with the Bottle City of Kandor was a part of it for a little while.
Yes, lots of storylines going on, Charlie. Lots of storylines.
Yeah, and you didn't even go on and read all the backup stories, because for 12 cents this thing was 100 pages.
There was story, some three panel
Snuffy
Smith comics too. Very odd.
Snuffy Smith just sounds like it sounds like a snuff film. That's messed up. But anyway, so as you can see from the cover, and Todd, I assume that's what I
will put the covers up as you're listening. Yeah. If you're not listening, if you're listening, folks, I would highly recommend you go to the YouTube page so you can see these covers. But Charlie, the concept of this one was Superman was poisoned with red kryptonite, or
red K, red
kryptonite, and so it essentially made him change colors based on different emotions. Green with envy, shock, blue with sadness, purple with rage, red with embarrassment, and yellow with fear. And Charlie, this was the greatest sitcom of all time.
This really was. This was I got 2 dates to the prom, or or the kids got a dog, but mom and dad can't find out that they got a dog because they picked it up at the city dump or something. But this whole story was, he was getting mad about certain things, or he would get scared. Did he get yellow with fear? Or did he get fearful he was going to get like exposed. And so at one point he was turning green with envy because of something, now I can't remember. So he did this super speed thing where he ran and grabbed a Green Lantern, nice plug, and put it next to the car so that when Lois turned back, the green light was shining on the car.
He picked up the whole damn place.
And then he, very exposition heavy, still goes, well, we're green because of the green car. Because she's like, well, I know that if he changes his face or whatever, that he's Superman.
Clark is actually Superman. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so much work.
Charlie, my favorite one was, I forgot what color he was changing. And so his ploy was, they were at the lake, and so we basically decide to put like a mannequin or like this weird thing on a fish to like act like he was saving him in the water. I'm like, what is this? Oh my God.
This was definitely some TGI Friday, Full House. What was the one with Urkel? Family Matters. This was
Family Matters.
This is a very Family Matters kind of scenario going on. So
remember the one where
this is great.
Remember when his face turned gold, and so he had to get a trophy made out of gold to hit the light, so the light would hit his face. It was like, what are we even doing here, folks?
This is the kind of stuff that like my dad was reading, because it was 1958, so my dad would have been like 9. So
what
this
did Superman even do that was like entertaining to anybody?
And there was no villain, per se, or he just had to go into.
The only villain was Superman's pride.
Exactly. He made mention of it. Again, it went back and forth with sticking the bottle City of Candor in there. And of course, that's a portion of that.
Such a weird
Krypton that Brainiac shrunk. So Brainiac got like a side panel, but then one of Superman's friends within the bottle died, and they were having a funeral. And so
it was like fast forward too. It was like that happened fast. He's sick.
He was
funeral, and now he's dead.
Well, I mean, he had it must have been the gout. Maybe he got hit by a car. I don't know. Flying car.
Very weird. Very weird.
It was very weird. So yeah. I had fun reading it because it was so stupid.
It was so weird. It was like a Mr. Ed episode in the comics.
Wilbur, come in the room. Oh my gosh. All right. So Todd, 1 out of 10 for this comic. What do you think? What would you rate it?
You know what? Entertained me, if nothing else, and there was more content than I really wanted. So I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, you know what? Five's a good. I would give it probably a 7 for the entertainment value.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. Getting into this next title, which is this is volume 1 of the Avengers. We're only a handful of issues from when volume 1 ends, because this is just prior to Onslaught. So basically, the heroes were born, which is when the Avengers went away. And came back. But man, this is, and again, it's from January of 1996. So Todd, we were at MSU. I don't know if I was still a subscriber, but I don't feel like I was following. But at this time, we had not necessarily a terrible lineup of Avengers, because you had some of the founding, heritage member characters. But because we had Giant Man, which was Hank Pym. You had Hawkeye, Black Widow, Vision. The Wasp is the center point of this, because the whole thing takes place at her ruined mansion in Southampton, which is, a very famous spot on Long Island.
Did you mention Hercules and his tank top?
Hercules with his tank top and no beard, because that's when he decided to. I thought he couldn't shave. No, that's Samson, can't cut his hair. But Hercules without a beard, it doesn't work. Plus, now Hercules will forever be Roy from Ted Lasso, because that was the actor. That was the only redeemable part of Thor.
We'll never see him again.
I know. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly correct. But anyway, you have all of these characters I mentioned in the absolute worst iterations possible of clothing. So like Vision is the same colors, but it's done wrong. Hawkeye's wearing a terrible outfit. Hank's wearing a really upside down weird. He's got soccer dude bangs. Again, I'm just ripping off
Giant Man, Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the centerpiece is the fact that something that happened in the previous issue, and again, this is a story arc that has to do with Kang. So part of it's in the future.
Incomprehensible to me, Charlie. This made no sense to me whatsoever.
I agree. And again, I likely read this, but remember how I said, "Oh, I'm going to read every Avengers comic ever." I stopped way before this because you talked me out of it, and rightfully so. But at some point prior to this issue, Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, had undergone some kind of metamorphosis where she was in a cocoon, and all of the panels of the cocoon were going thwip, 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 thwip. Because
I thought it was Cousin It. Like Cousin It is a pink wig. I kind of like,
Right.
what the hell is this thing? It's not a cocoon.
Yeah, exactly. And then she finally comes out of it, and at the end of it, there's this big pitched battle because Kang comes through, and doesn't he have like some wacky robots or something? And they're beating the shit out of our
it's
guys.
like there's a Kang squad, and then they get this little dude,
Kang squad,
who's
right.
Null or something like that is his name, or Goon, or with an axe.
Goon.
And he's beating the crap out of everybody. And then all of a sudden, his back is turned. They've taken down all of the Avengers, and Wasp shoots him down, and that's it.
Yep.
Don't know why.
And then they're gone, and they have a little exposition, and and it's on to the next. So this was the Crossing miniseries. Yeah.
I don't know
I don't know what they were crossing to. But yeah, even on the title, it's got all the people listed. The art is terrible. The story is, like you said, it's a mess. And it just...
that was considered a good artist at the time. Mike Deodato Jr., he did Wonder Woman. He was kind of like a hot rising talent. But yeah, it did not look good to me at all. I didn't like it.
Yeah, it just didn't click. So, all right. Well, let's move on. After giving a rating, Todd, for me, this is below the slash. It's probably a 4 out of 10 for me.
Oh, I'm going like 2.5 because total nonsense, bad costumes, no clue what was happening. And it's like, who is reading this trash? But
total
Charlie might have stopped by that point.
Yeah, I feel like so this would have been at the end of 1995. I don't know where I was at with reading comics because Todd, you and I were hanging out at that time, but I don't know what regular titles we were reading or if we were just reading old stuff. I have no idea. I was more into probably Marvel had the Star Trek license at that time, so that was kind of one of my big focuses, but I did still read some of the core stuff. I just don't think this is one of them. All right, well, this next one, this was during your Walt Simonson big run of Thor, correct? Thor, Volume 1, 371. This was in 1986, so it was Marvel's 25th anniversary. But what...
This one didn't make a whole lot of sense either. I never read this one, and then I must have been out of the comics at the time. But basically, this one's weird because at this time, Odin's out of the picture. Balder becomes the king of Asgard and gets his own thing. And then Thor's like, I got to get back to Earth and see what's going on. So when he gets back, we're introduced to this guy that looks like a knockoff of Judge Dredd, essentially.
Right.
Comes in and he's looking for somebody.
He's got armor that says peace, or it almost looks like if you look at this cover, he's got like 2 epaulets, which could both be like D's, and the middle of his thing almost looks like an A. It could be Dad Peace. So he's Dad Peace. That's
maybe. Yeah, it's a really weird story because he essentially is like a cop who's like starting to like shoot people with like tranquilizers that make them obey the law, like
so it's like Demolition Man. Remember how everybody was like, "You are fined 1 credit of the blah blah blah." This, and we got to go to I can't believe there wasn't Taco Bell in here.
It was like they were jaywalking, so we shot them with the thing, so they would no longer jaywalk. So it was like that was their thing. And Thor comes in, starts beating the crap out of them, but then he puts. Basically gets Thor captured, and Thor finally breaks through it. It's so bizarre. I don't even know what was going on. And then we get a cut to Hela. Apparently, Hela had just been beaten by Thor, but she's going to find out a way to. Yeah, she's going to find out a way to redeem her loss and take out Thor. Right. And that was kind of. Oh no! I'm forgetting the best part, Charlie.
There was a family
story
from Chicago.
Yes, there's a horrible side story. Yeah,
it was a woman and her kids, but there was some fix-up that there was a crook there. He was being paid, and it had something to do with breaking some other con out of jail. And then they were teaming up to kill Jane Foster.
That's what it was. I almost forgot about that wonderful plot line.
But at the end of it, the one hoodlum shoots the guy who got broke out, but
Yeah,
then he explodes like little gopher demons fly out of him, and then they chase the other guys down the street, and they bite you in the neck. It's like the space herpes from
they can
Ice
take
Pirate.
you over. The guy they broke out of jail had he could make knives out of the air, so he mistakenly kills the woman because she was going to help them kill Jane Foster. Then the one guy shoots the guy with the knives. Yeah, the monster breaks out, and then it takes over the thug. That was his name, right? Thug.
It was Thug, yeah. That was
Johnson or something like that.
He was like, "Call me Thug." It's like Snake Plissken. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then he basically transforms the end, and he's a character called the Zaniac, which is like
that's my friend. That's my friend Eric Zane.
So he's got the disease.
You remember my friend Eric Zane, the broadcaster.
Yeah, I do.
We had him on the show. Yeah. So that's his nom de plume. That's what he goes by.
He's the Zaniac. The Zaniac creature. If you read the next issue, because they kind of previewed it, he will be taking on Thor. So,
of course, absolutely. So, Todd, again, low creative point for what was obviously a great run of the comic. Yeah. So this is like a 4 out of 10 for me. Just not a winner.
No, nothing memorable. Like I said, I even forgot like the weird like side story. I'm going to give this one I'll give it a 4 out of 10 as well.
All right, very good. Well, this next one, this was a treat because House of Mystery from issue 298 from we got a date on this one. You say the 1960s?
It was like 68, I believe. Yeah.
All right, but this was not a superhero comic. It was published by DC. We have on the cover some backwoods simpleton townfolk beating on a robot, and it says he was a vampire from beyond the stars or mankind's last hope for survival? The astonishing answer awaits you on Stalker on a Starless Night. Now, that was the first of 4 stories.
Yeah, lots of it almost reminded me what was it?
It was
the Crypt Keeper, Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, something like that.
Tales from the Crypt, or kind of like the what was the one with not Robert Stack, the guy like the True Mysteries, like or
Unsolved
like
Mysteries.
It was like Unsolved Mysteries because you had stories. The one we mentioned, we'll just blast through them real quick. Was a robot that the townsfolk with their pitchforks were going to take it down, and at the end of it, the Burgermeister. What is a Burgermeister? Did one of us?
He's like the mayor of the town. He's like the mayor of the town, Charlie.
It's not like Burger Time, which was that great old.
You don't remember the Burgermeister from that one where it was Santa Claus, where he was trying to get the children the gifts, and the Burgermeister was angry about Santa Claus and Burgermeister Burger.
What was the movie?
It was basically the Mickey Rooney and the origin story of Santa Claus. It was like the Rankin Bass one. You don't remember that one? I loved it.
I don't. Okay, well, Christmas then we'll revisit
with the Winter Warlock. Anyway, I'll make you watch it.
That was the story, and at the end of it, but then we got into a couple of really weird ones. We had one about a guy who seduces a woman who's homely. Even
that was
in
weird.
The illustration, she just looked normal, but she was an heiress. And he was fishing on her land, but he was fishing with dynamite, like most rednecks do. And
thought you wouldn't notice. Sorry if that was a problem.
He seduces her and marries her, and then he kills her with an oar, and she drowns. Yes. And then he makes up a story like, "Well, I can't swim, so I couldn't go after her." And then he's doing his fishing thing, him and the dog in the boat, and he throws the dynamite out, and the dog swims out to get it like a good dog does, and comes back and blows both of them to hell. And that's the story.
Yes.
We then have another story about a guy whose car breaks down in front of a mansion. There's a weird lady in there, and she basically runs like it was like an episode of American Horror Story. She runs a house for like wayward freaks, people who are cripples. Sorry about mixing in the tones, but people who are physically deformed or disabled. And then she points out, this is our treasure room because everyone who comes here gives me all their money. So whole thing's a scam. And he's like, well, why don't you stay here overnight until a mechanic comes on? This is like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He wakes up in the night, puts a bunch. Oh, by the way, he's on the run from the mob because
Yes.
there's a hit on him because he stole money. So he gathers up some of the treasure, and as he's walking out to go down the stairs, he trips, and then it cuts to the next day. A townsperson stops by to talk to Miss whatever who runs the place and says, "Oh, who's that car? Oh, this guy had an accident and he's staying here for a while." What happened is the guy fell down the stairs and he's all broken up. His body is deformed, and there was an allusion earlier in the comic that all of our residents are practicing for the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but they don't have a hunchback. Now this guy's in traction and his face is all jacked up. He's like, "Well, he'll make a great Hunchback of Notre Dame." It's like, what? Was that the last story? I feel it was so weird. I think that was it. But it was like,
no, the other one, the other one you missed was basically the old blues man, where the guy is going to give
the old blues man.
He basically steals all his records and all his music. Yes,
and his son does the same thing years later.
Yep.
The guy dies and has a heart attack. He comes back to haunt the son as he's driving in the road, makes the kid get in a crash, and the guy loses his eyesight, so he becomes the blind man, and then the story's over. It was just you're right. It was Tales from the Crypt.
These were all precautionary tales of things gone wrong. The fact that they did this, like they told these stories like in literally like 6 pages, which is, give them kudos because they had to build something up. But I mean, imagine me the guy I got to write 5 of these in a month.
The origin of the Amazing Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy 15 was 6 pages.
Yeah, that's
so
crazy.
It can be done. All right, take us home with the last story, Todd. Guardians of the Galaxy 54 from the 1990s.
Yeah, so this is the Guardians of the Galaxy, who are the Guardians of the Galaxy you don't know except for Yondu. Right. And apparently this team, through the year 3000, that's where they operate. So basically they're separate from the modern Marvel Universe. We've got Captain Vance Astro.
They were set up because this crew, or a portion of it, were part of the whole Kree Skrull War back in the 70s and the Avengers, but they were from an alternate timeline where, as reflected in this, there's a big, massive, it's kind of like Tony Stark's vision in Age of Ultron where everybody was dead. That's kind of this deal. Like the monsters came and stuff. But anyway.
Exactly. So it's a weird crew. So there's some characters I don't even know. They talk. There's a lot of great editor notes of like things. A lot of things have happened, and it's like, okay, I'll get to speed. Not really so well. We got like Charlie 27. We got Yondu, Vance Astro. We've got this one like werewolf looking creature. Apparently he wasn't that way, but he apparently altered himself to become more bestial.
And he's got like Elvira's hair, because look at him even on this cover.
Oh yeah, he's got a streak.
Another one of these characters came from an Avengers run, and she's a female version of Yellow Jacket, but she's clearly she's stranded in this time with no memory. Because remember when they're in the museum later on and they're looking and talking about artifacts, they say, "Oh, I wonder if he and I hooked up back in the day talking about."
Okay, I'll give you the line of Charlie. So we already talked about Vance Astro, Charlie 27, Alita, Yondu, Nikki, Talon, and Yellow Jacket. To your point, Starhawk is also in this episode, and the main thrust of this episode is there's a character called Ripjack that is like a bad dude you never see. They keep referring to him.
that couldn't be any more 90s. I'm Ripjack. It's like, was he going to be played by Chuck Norris? I mean, oh my God.
And essentially they they find a museum that has remnants of the past. So they find like Captain America's cowl. They find all these different things. They do find Spider-Man, like a museum with Spider-Man's costume. Right. Not really the whole premise of the episode, but that's what's kind of cool about the cover. But then
it's a hook. Yeah, it's a hook because Spider-Man's so obviously
a weird aside about like who that version of Wonder Man was, called Hollywood, which I found very odd.
I feel like I've heard of that before, and again, I Wonder Man. Wonder Man is one of my favorite characters. He's a basically Wonder Man. If you don't know, is Wonder Woman and Superman put together, pretty much. I've always loved the character, but
became a Hollywood icon or something like that. Very weird.
Yeah, he was a stuntman. He was the fall guy because he's invulnerable.
The odd part about this comic was there was so much like interplay between the characters. Vance Astro is angry and something's wrong with him, and we've got Talon who apparently wants to take over the ship, and a lot of a lot of things, a lot of drama going on.
There's a lot. It's a lot of drama. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, and literally though, nothing else really happens. We never see them do anything heroic. It's a lot of just jibber jabber, and I'm like,
Well, it's a lot of
Who's
setup.
reading this
and it's
comic?
at the last panel is when Ripjack goes, blah, 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 Ripjack. And he's doing a jump, and it's like, to be continued.
And then we see like one panel with Starhawk as well. And I'm like, oh, he looks like he's going to beat somebody up. But
Starhawk was Stallone in Guardians too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So not a big surprise at this.
I couldn't even tell you what happened in this comic, quite honest, except they went to a museum. Right. That was about it.
I mean, and at this point they had 54 issues, so somebody was reading it. For a few years prior.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to find out. So, oh my gosh, that takes us through quick bites on 5 comics. Todd,
did you give this one? Did you give this one a rating? For me,
go for it.
I'm gonna give it like a 4.5 because at least I was entertained with some nostalgia and some weird some things. But beyond that, not a good book. So I'll give it 4.5.
I'll give it a flat 5 because the museum stuff with nods to Captain America, and then I'll give it a 5.5 because we got Wonder Man in the mix, and I did like that. But other than that, it was just all of the callbacks to previous issues were just gibberish because it didn't tie back. It's not like and this happened in the Kree Squad. It didn't give reference to any storylines that I would have been familiar with. So, so that's that. Well, put it on the calendar. This is one that we should do. We haven't done one of these in like 3 or 4 years. I think Kay was on the last time we did one. So that was definitely a while back. So let's definitely tackle this maybe at least once every 6 to 12 months because I enjoy doing this. It's good stuff. Get to randomize because we always say if we get a really crazy cover, like we ought to read that one. So if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. All right. Well, Todd, that's the show. Thank you everybody for joining us. Todd, where do people find you out there?
They can find me on Threads at Toxtra, at Secret Friends Unite, in our Discord group, and also I tend to put up a lot of updates on our Patreon page as well. Patreon.com/SecretFriendsUnite. And also check out our website. It's got lots of good things. It's got everything there. So if you like our YouTube videos are out there, and also all of our podcasts if you're so inclined.
All of it. Well, I finally got on the ball and updated my handles on social media. On Threads and Instagram, I am simply the C3, which is who I always wanted to be. But because of Facebook, and the hack I had a couple of years ago, and I have a funky name, I didn't know I could change it. So now and forever, I am the C3. Do remember, if you drop us a line at secretfriendsunite@gmail.com, we call that the mailbag. Let us know stuff that you're enjoying. And questions that you have for us, thoughts about the show, and if they're of redeemable interest, we will talk about them on the program. There's a good chance, no promises. But my wife and I actually have the privilege of mentoring Star Trek fans here in the state of Michigan. We did a great panel at Motor City Comic Con in Metro Detroit yesterday, where we met a lot of great folks. The chapter that we are currently working with is called the USS Grand Petoskey, based out of West Michigan. If you visit a website at that same name and drop an email, and you're like, I love Star Trek, I want to meet Star Trek fans where I live, it's my personal passion to connect people with Trekkers where they're at through Starfleet International. So let me know, and I'd love to help. Friends, one last time, thanks for joining us. I'm going to tell you, as always, that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Transform and roll out.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.